Have you ever felt like you're the only one standing up for what you believe in? Imagine being one person against hundreds, with everyone watching to see if you'll fail. That's exactly the situation a man named Elijah found himself in, and his story is one of the most dramatic showdowns in history. This isn't just an ancient tale. It's a powerful story about courage, faith, and what happens when you dare to challenge the status quo. So, grab your popcorn, because we're about to dive into the epic confrontation on Mount Carmel. Our story begins in ancient Israel, a nation that was in deep trouble. King Ahab was on the throne, and his wife, Queen Jezebel, had introduced the worship of a false god named Baal. She was so aggressive about it that she had most of God's true prophets hunted down. It was a dark time for the nation. Faith was fading, and confusion was everywhere. The people were torn, trying to follow both God and Baal. But as we'll see, you can't have it both ways. In the midst of all this, God had one powerful voice left, the prophet Elijah. Elijah was a rugged, no-nonsense man of God. He wasn't afraid to speak the truth, even to the king. In response to the nation's idolatry, God had Elijah declare a drought. He told King Ahab that there would be no dew or rain for years, except by his word. And just like that, the skies dried up, the rivers shrank, the crops failed, and a severe famine swept across the land. For 3 long years, the people suffered, a direct consequence of turning their backs on God. This drought set the stage for the ultimate test of faith. After 3 years, God told Elijah it was time to confront King Ahab. So, Elijah went to find him. When Ahab saw Elijah, he greeted him with, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" He blamed Elijah for the famine. But Elijah didn't flinch. He shot right back, "I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house have, in that you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord and have followed the Baals." Elijah wasn't there to argue. He was there to propose a challenge, a public contest to prove once and for all who the one true God really was. Elijah laid out the terms of the challenge. "Gather all of Israel to Mount Carmel," he said, "and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table." This was going to be a public spectacle. The location, Mount Carmel, was significant. It was a high place, visible to all, a place that had likely been used for idol worship. Elijah wanted everyone to be a witness. He was calling for a clear decision. The time for wavering and indecision was over. So, the crowd gathered on the mountain, the king, the prophets of Baal, and the people of Israel. Elijah stood before them and asked a piercing question. "How long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." The Bible tells us the people said nothing. They were silent, caught in their own uncertainty. Their silence was the very problem Elijah was trying to solve. They were stuck in the middle, spiritually paralyzed. Elijah then proposed the test. He said, "I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Let's get to bulls. The prophets of Baal can choose one, cut it into pieces, and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. I will do the same with the other bull. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is God." The people thought this was a fair test. A divine sign of fire from the sky would be undeniable proof. The prophets of Baal went first. They took their bull, prepared the altar, and began to pray. From morning until noon, they cried out, "Oh, Baal, answer us." They leaped and danced around the altar they had made, but there was no response, no voice, no sound, no fire. The sky remained silent. Can you imagine the scene? Hundreds of men shouting, chanting, and dancing in a frenzy, becoming more and more desperate as the hours ticked by. The pressure was on, and their God was nowhere to be found. As noon approached, Elijah couldn't resist. He started to mock them. He said, "Shout louder. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." This really got under their skin. His sarcasm highlighted the absurdity of their situation. Spurred on by his taunts, they shouted even louder. They began to work themselves into a religious frenzy, even cutting themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. They kept this up until the time of the evening sacrifice, but still, nothing happened. No answer, no sign. Only silence. Their failure was total and humiliating. After hours of frantic effort, all they had to show for it was exhaustion and a silent, unburnt sacrifice. The stage was now set for Elijah. It was his turn. He called the people to come near him. He wanted them to see everything up close with no tricks. The first thing he did was repair the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. He took 12 stones, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and rebuilt it. This was a symbolic act, reminding the people of their unified heritage and their covenant with God. Then, Elijah did something completely unexpected, something that seemed to make his task impossible. He dug a trench around the altar. Then he said, "Fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood." They did it. "Do it again," he said. They did it a second time. "Do it a third time," he commanded. They did it a third time. The water drenched the sacrifice, soaked the wood, and filled the entire trench. There was absolutely no way any hidden spark or trick could light this waterlogged altar. Elijah was making it clear that if this fire was going to light, it had to be a miracle from God. With everything prepared, the water dripping from the altar and the sun beginning to set, Elijah stepped forward. Unlike the prophets of Baal, with their hours of chaotic shouting, Elijah offered a simple, powerful, and direct prayer. He said, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." His prayer was short, humble, and focused entirely on God's glory. And then it happened. Instantly, the fire of the Lord fell from heaven. It didn't just light the wood. The Bible says it consumed the burnt offering, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and it also licked up the water in the trench. Everything was incinerated by this supernatural fire. A divine firestorm erased any doubt. This wasn't a normal fire. This was the raw power of the Creator of the universe on full display. When all the people saw this, they fell on their faces in awe and shouted, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" In that single breathtaking moment, their wavering ended. They saw the truth with their own eyes. The God of Israel had proven himself in the most spectacular way imaginable. Baal was powerless. The Lord was, and is, the one true God. The contest was over. The story doesn't end there. After this incredible victory of faith, Elijah had the false prophets of Baal dealt with according to the law of the time. Then he went back up the mountain to pray for rain. He sent his servant to look toward the sea 7 times. On the 7th time, the servant reported seeing a small cloud the size of a man's hand rising from the sea. That tiny cloud was the sign. Soon the sky grew black with clouds, the wind picked up, and a heavy rain began to fall, ending the 3.5-year drought. God not only proved His power with fire, but also His mercy and provision with water. Elijah's story on Mount Carmel is a timeless reminder of the power of standing for truth, even when you feel alone. It shows that one person, filled with faith in the one true God, can make an extraordinary difference. It challenges us to ask ourselves, where do we place our faith? Are we wavering between 2 opinions, or are we willing to stand firmly for God, trusting that He will show up in powerful ways? This story isn't just about fire from the sky. It's about the fire of faith that can burn within each of us. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories from history that still speak to us today. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this story stood out to you the most? Until next time, stay curious and stand strong.